Hello, welcome back to the channel, and today we'll be doing a bit of a series, I think. I'm trying to mass record videos before I go to town. Don't know if I'll be able to fit them all in, but I'll try to give out as many videos as I can while I'm gone for the rest of this week. But we'll just start off here. I'm going to be doing, obviously, as you see by the title, the most important games by week. Some of these will be pretty obvious. Some of these maybe not as obvious. Hopefully, you can give a bit of an angle instead of just looking at the top games of the week. Some other games you could sneak in there. And we'll start off on Thursday of week one. Nothing week zero. I kind of thought about maybe doing something for Florida State week zero, but I don't know. It's hard. I don't want to force anything. It always gets tricky over there in Europe. I know that obviously Nebraska that had a few years ago, but we'll start off with two games on Thursday. Well, the first of one, I'll flip the order. Already looking at it. UNC at Minnesota. Minnesota is a 2.5-point favorite at home. It's 8:00. I don't know what channel, but it is at 8:00 on Thursday of week one. One of the first games we'll be watching. Probably the other game actually that I'm going to say, but this one is another one on. Hopefully, you get two monitors. Big two monitors recommendation for everyone here. UNC at Minnesota, obviously the flip game of a home and home last year. UNC comes in losing a few people, most notably Tez Walker and, of course, Drake May going top three. They now bring in Max Johnson from A&M. I don't think he's a lefty, right? That was Weigman. But yeah, so he's going on the road to Minnesota. And I think this game is a lot more important for Minnesota than it is for UNC. UNC, a bit of a rebuilding year, but obviously with Mac Brown, you don't know how many more years you're going to get out of him with an absolute legendary career. But, with a new quarterback, you're looking at seeing what they're doing. But they did kind of sneakily start to run the ball a bit more with a Marion Hampton, one of the better running backs out there. I don't know if British Brooks is back. I probably should be looking it up. But I know Marion Hampton, you think of the video game, he was up there high. He was one of the best backs in fantasy last year. So look for him to have a big game. And Minnesota's at home, an out-of-conference opponent. UNC obviously not the biggest football power, but they had a top 3 pick last year. People still know what it is that Carolina Blue travels. And PJ Fleck is, I wouldn't say he's in the hot seat, but it's like, hey, we're kind of getting there. Like, what do we really expect out of you, right? These are the games you got to win. You're a favorite at home, and it is a big quality opponent, but it's a big game. This is like not a program, but a season-defining win. If you come in. If you stay at home and defend your home field against a pretty good team on the road, a legendary coach in Mac Brown, he's done this 100 times. That's a pretty big thing. Obviously, you're bringing in a new quarterback as well with your quarterback transfer to Rutgers. You've had a few guys go out. It'd be a good game to start building for the future. I know the future is, it's crazy to say that in week one, but if you can defend home field against the Tar Heels, that's a big, whoa. Minnesota, beating UNC. Like, they're favorite at home, but it's one of those games where, the public perception is probably going to pick UNC. The other game on Thursday is the game they feature a few times in the series. I'm going to tell you right now. North Dakota State travels to Boulder, Colorado. Colorado is an 8.5-point favorite at home. This is, for narrative purposes, this is a crazy game. For a long time, people have been hyping up North Dakota State. Obviously, they've had quite a few first-round quarterbacks, Trey Lance and who else? Carson Wentz. I know they had Cody Mock and a few other guys. Big draft picks in the first day or two of the NFL draft at the 1AA level. Technically, it's not D2, right? It's 1AA, whatever it is, FCS level. And they've done really well in that division, clearly. And, with some of these teams hopping up from DU2 or 1AA to D1, technically, right? You think of what a Sam Houston's jumped up recently, Jacksonville State, a few other teams. I'm thinking of basketball teams, but those are the two football teams that come to mind that would be the jump. Kennesaw State, actually, this year as well. A big win like this would be crazy. I mean, everyone's going to be watching Deion week one, for Shedeur and for Travis. Could they kind of come in on like a Stanford thing where it's like, hey, we've got some guys, we've got some physicality. I mean, because North Dakota State's got some dudes. I mean, I think I would say go out on a limb and say they've got probably some bigger offensive linemen. They've had a lot more drafted than Colorado has recently. Obviously, Colorado recently doesn't really matter in terms of the Deion scape, but you know what I mean. And just, let alone it being Deion on prime time week one, right? Kind of not a standalone game. Obviously, I just mentioned UNC Minnesota, but you want to see what they're doing, right? They brought in a bit more trenches type guys. They brought in some defense. There's a lot of shenanigans going on around the program and allegations, I guess you could say. Nothing like crazy, but the way to put all the haters to bed is, as Dean would know more than anyone, is go out there and win. And, the sharps, the CFB nerd type guys out there. I mean, I don't know if I put myself in that category, but pretty close. It'd be like, hey, we've been looking for these high 1AA teams versus another team for a long time, like a D1 team. So, bring out Colorado and all their hype with North Dakota State, one of the better teams coming in. This game brings everything. I mean, like it would even been this game would have probably made the list if they played Colorado State. I don't know about Colorado State, but like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a lesser P5 program, like if they played like, I don't know, Rutgers or something, they'd be like, whoa, but let it be Colorado and Dion. I mean, it's going to be awesome. I'm sure Joel Klatt and the guys will be there. I'm assuming this game is going to be on Fox. If this loads for me, it is on Friday. Let's see here. Friday. It's on ESPN. So you'll probably get Herb Street and the guys, maybe Fowler. I don't know. Surprised this game's on ESPN. Didn't the media deal change? I don't know. But also while we're at it, Fox is actually Minnesota, North Carolina. So you probably get Gus Johnson for that game. So, but those are the 2 Thursday games. We now move into the big games on Saturday. Honorable mention to Clemson and Georgia. Just Georgia's a 2-touchdown favorite. I was trying to, that's kind of an obvious game, right? I kind of want to go for some of the less obvious games. For Twitter Spaces, I know I've talked about this game a few times. We're going to go down to the Swamp in Gainesville. It's Miami against Florida. So there's twofold here, right? 2 teams in opposite directions, right? Going up, one going down. But, a rivalry game week 1, it's a tone setter. I think I talked about this earlier. I don't remember what video exactly it was. Actually, it was the Dark Horses video, right? If Miami goes out there and wins this game, it's like, okay, they're serious. You're a favor on the road. You're sure you need to do it. But, with the question marks sometimes around coaching with Crystal Ball and his in-game decisions, you go into a hostile environment in a week 1 road game where Florida's got all the tricks. This is probably their Super Bowl for the season, realistically, at least for the first half of the season. And if you go in there and win that game, it's like, okay, Miami is a serious program. If you lose this game, it's like, okay, here we go again. And, the cabin, the pressure could fall out. Would you even be calling for Mario's job at this point? Probably not. But Miami's got sky-high expectations, and a lot of people are penciling this game as a win, but Vegas disagrees. Only a 2.5-point favorite there. As for Florida, they have probably the toughest schedule in college football. I think a poll came out. I'm pretty sure they were number 1 in it. They've got 11 Power 5 games, right? This is a game you got to have if you're Florida. If you're Billy, everyone's on your back. Think of like West Virginia last year. I know they lost week 1 against Penn State on the road, but obviously completely different scenario. They had a few big wins early, and people had their coach getting fired early. He was like, oh, he's guaranteed gone. I wonder who they're going to bring in. Is it the Detroit coach to come in, blah, blah, blah. They were already replacing him before the season started. They're doing the same thing with Billy. I don't know if you can bet on any real book, like some of the fake offshore books that give you crazy odds are like, hey, is Billy Napier the first coach fired? He's the favorite on those books. You win a game, a big rivalry game at home, 3:30 ABC. That's how you put the haters to bed. But probably the first big SEC team to play on the ESPN networks under their new media deal. It's going to be a lot of hype, a lot of attention to this game, let alone, again, as I say, for the people that aren't on Twitter, the 2 of the craziest Twitter fan bases, obviously Miami being one. Crazy in a good way, very impassioned. If Florida pulls this off at home, it's like, okay, monkeys off the back. We're doing our thing. Watch out. What can happen now? Who's their good quarterback to be? Probably Mertz, but is if God forbid Lagaway starts, I don't think he will, right? Oh my God, look what he did. His first career game at home against Miami is like a Bo Nix type thing where it's like a crazy game, obviously not a rivalry game, Oregon and Auburn, but a crazy game week 1, everyone's tuned in. Oh my God, look what he did type thing. So we'll see. I mean, you think of the Florida games against Utah, they had a tough season with AR, but they won that game and he made some crazy plays. And you're like, okay, hey, Florida's got some stuff going on. So that game, probably the game of the week. Then the next game, again, a sneaky game. I believe 2 ranked opponents. I'm not totally sure if A&M is ranked or not, but they are hosting Notre Dame. Notre Dame, again, another team coming with crazy sky-high expectations, higher than Miami's. They're in the top 5, top 10 discussions. I think they're like ranked in the top 10. They're getting a lot of hype for winning the national championship, which is kind of crazy by me. But hey, you can't be losing games against A&M. It's the type of game where it's like, hey, week 1, we prepared for this all season. We're going to go into a hostile environment and take over. And there's not many environments that are more hostile than A&M. Mike Elko coming back after being a D coordinator, was a head coach over at Duke for a bit. It's his, he's coming back home, I guess you could say, hosting at Kyle Field, one of the bigger games they've had in a long time, especially at a conference, right? This is your statement right here. If you come in and you win this game, it's like, okay, can A&M make noise in the conference, right? They're probably a very dark horse candidate in the SEC, clearly loaded program, but this is the type of game you can win. And it's like, okay, can they sneak into this expanded playoff? And if you're Notre Dame, this is a game that's going to get brought up for them as well. It's like, hey, they beat an SEC team on the road week 1, right? Currently, A&M's a 1-point favorite, so it's basically a pick 'em. Over under 46.5, 7:30 ABC. All eyes will be on this game. This is, game of the week potential. I still think Miami, Florida, for Twitter purposes, is the game of the week. But if Notre Dame walks in there with Riley Leonard, new quarter coach, new quarterback, existing coach, obviously, in Freeman, he's gotten some, can he win in big game allegations, mostly from Michigan and other fan bases, as the way he's played against Ohio State. Again, go in there and say, okay, I am here. You've got some stuff going on, some flips and commitments. You've got good classes. Obviously, you're losing a few guys like Deuce Knight and Avon Taylor, but it's like we can put our foot in the sand, plant our flag, and be like, look, we beat an SEC team on the road. That plays. Obviously, it's A&M, and they have a lot of jokes behind them, but A&M still got a lot of talent and a lot of good players. And I'm sure Elko have that defense figured out a bit more. They can move the ball on offense. Again, A&M can make some plays. So, this is almost not a loser leaves town type game week 1, but it's like a pretender contender very early in the season game. So we'll definitely have our eyes on that one, and I highly recommend it. And looking at the final game, it's on Sunday in Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. LSU technically is hosting Southern California, USC. LSU -6. Brian Kelly, again, coming off a Heisman winning season, a lot of staff changeover. They lost their offensive coordinator, and they fired, I think, probably fired. I don't know that for sure. Their D coordinator brought in a lot of guys from Missouri, so they're trying to fix that crazy defense and replacing a lot on offense. A Lincoln Riley offense is a very good test week 1 for your new defense. Kind of combat under fire or trial under fire type thing. Over under is 62.5, so they think it's going to be clearly going to be a shootout. So if you can stop this Lincoln Riley offense, it's like, okay, maybe LSU's got the horses that can do it. They, along with Notre Dame, in my opinion, a little biased on Notre Dame, I'm a Michigan fan, as you probably would know, are a little bit higher for my liking. I know LSU's got similar odds to Michigan. They're like plus 120 to make the playoff. They're one of the teams that are up there in terms of winning the national championship. Obviously, they have better odds to win the title because if you're in the SEC, iron sharpens iron type thing. But, they're going to obviously improve on defense. It's hard to not after what they did last year. Same with USC. But obviously, you're losing Neighbors. You're losing Brian Thomas. You're losing, I think, one of the running backs transferred. You're losing, obviously, the Heisman winner in Jaden Daniels. I don't know why I waited that long to say on him. But you got Brian Kelly in there. Nussmeier's been in the system for a bit. Is a bit of a bridge quarterback until Underwood comes in next season. This is a good win. Again, USC is probably the best spot to play them. They're a little bit down week 1. We can see what happens. Miller Moss is probably one of the worst quarterbacks Lincoln Riley's had. No disrespect to the kid, but you're coming off of a Heisman winner. Same thing could be said about Nussmeier, probably one of the worst LSU quarterbacks they've had in a little bit. I know they had one dip season after Burrow, but it's when you got the lofty aspirations of replacing Heisman winners, both of these guys, right? It's a high bar to follow. Because can you imagine this game if it was Jaden Daniels versus Caleb Williams, like pick 1 versus pick 2? How crazy that would be. But that being said, it's going to be crazy to see, replacing these guys. Which guy can out-scheme which guy? Lincoln Riley's had some, some questions about where his head's at in the offseason. Was he potentially going to go to LSU a few years ago? Maybe a half revenge game for him there. Is he going to the NFL? Last offseason was kind of floated. Is he going to go in this upcoming offseason? Again, who knows, right? A good way to put the haters to bed is to beat an SEC team on the road. It will still probably be a bit of an LSU crowd, I'd imagine. Tickets are $140, a bit lower than I actually expected, but LSU will travel. USC, I assume, will travel, but I would imagine LSU will probably travel a bit more. It's hard to put up with how good their fan base is, or to compete with how good their fan base is, obviously with how loud they have their stadium and stuff. So be very interesting to see. Again, I know I say that all the time, but I'm very excited for this game. Standalone game Sunday night. It's the type of game you're walking around, putts and having nothing to do, and it's like, wow, this game is going to be great. Game of the week type thing. So, we'll see what happens in this game. I'd imagine LSU will probably take the cake, but I think there's a lot of value in USC. There's very big question marks with them. Both teams' defenses were very bad last year. Both addressed them with hiring very good players, coaches. Obviously, UCLA coming in for USC and Missouri coming in for LSU. Can they replicate that success? It'd be good against 2 high-octane offenses. And can LSU and USC also replace their crazy production they lost? USC with Zachariah Branch, can he take that leap? Can he, capitalize on what we saw at the beginning of last season? We'll see. And can Miller Moss replicate that bowl game performance he did against, what was it, Louisville in the Holiday Bowl? And Nussmeier actually played okay when Jaden Daniels got hurt 2 seasons ago in the SEC championship game. So a lot of questions will be answered in that game. And that's why it's one of the top games of the week for me. So that's what we got for now. Again, hopefully I'll be able to do week 2, 3, and 4 for the rest of this week, but we'll see. I got to cram in a lot of stuff going on. I got, some stuff in the personal life. And again, I'm going to New York this week, so we'll see what happens. But college football is getting here quickly. I know we're in August. What is it? August 6th, this video will be coming out. Crazy stuff. So again, thank you all for watching as always. And yeah, see you guys next time. Peace.